What's happening? It's Tuesday the 6th. Hopefully your guys' celebration for Independence Day kicked ass. Spent some time really looking into the history of things. And I looked at some of the history of stuff in the birth of the US and how that is dynamically different to what we're dealing with today and what people's ideas of freedom are today, comparatively speaking to those who were under an oppressed regime, if you will, with the king, and then deciding, hey, we're pulling away, we're running ourselves, right? And now it's for you to decide if you think that that's the same mentality that people got going on today. But it was a good weekend with the family. I enjoyed it. Got out into the desert, did some wheeling as well. But let's talk about where we're at the market right now. Interesting stuff. So some dynamics that I comment on in the past. There's something we get to show you today. Something that we don't get to see as often, at least so dramatically different. But today we get to, I'll be able to explain a little bit more here when I show the charts. So if you're looking at here, this is the 3.0. This is what I look at. I actually look at the 4.0 and the 4.5 to see where things are going with investors because it's a higher coupon rate, right? 4.5 means whoever's putting their money into that particular pool. You see here's different pools that is represented here, the 2.0, the 2.5, the 3.0. Now, these are more indicative of your owner-occupied stuff. Stuff with maybe higher credit, lower credit scores might be in here because when there's layered risk, they add margin to it as far as they're going to make more money off that. So you look at the MBS 2.0, that's somebody putting their money into that mortgage-backed security, and they're only going to get a 2% return on investment. Not sexy. So there should be very little, if any, risk involved there. So let's take a look at that one first. This is where people are putting their money trying to keep the risk down. Because I mean, look, we're in a risky market. There's risk all over the place right now, especially as volatile as things have been. And we've got things moving in the market that don't make sense when you're talking about our economy and what's being driven in the economy. Well, taking a look here, look at this 2.0. I mean, look at how much it rocketed up. It's way above the moving averages. The only one that's below is the 200-day moving average. It's above the 50-day, the 100-day, the 25-day. It's above all those averages, which we spent some time below it. But because of where things sit in the economy, there's more going into this and the perception. This is Aaron Chapman's way of dissecting this. Why would the 2.0 be something that attracts people? I'm guessing. Oh, well, number one, the Fed's dumping in stupid amounts of money. That's number one. That's where they're targeting their money. Remember, we talked about what the Fed said, or the U.S. Treasury said that the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac have to stay out of investment and limit their portfolio to 7% because those are the people that can afford it. So since they can afford higher rates, let's not give them the lower rates. There's a ton of that going in there. Plus, other investors who have probably invested to help push this beyond what Fannie and Freddie have made happen in the past, or the U.S. Treasury and the Fed have made happen recently. It's got to be, in my opinion, a risk-averse move, trying to put it somewhere where they believe there's lower risk. For some reason, they believe the homeowner, people buying a house to live in, is a lower risk. That's their belief. I can't get behind that. 2.5, look at that one. Same thing, jumped high. Again, that might be a little bit a different price point that might influence go to the 2.5. It might be a little bit lower credit scores, lower down payments, that kind of thing will get you to the 2.5. Same thing with the 3.0. Now, 3.0 is when you start to see it's not quite as much. Look at that, the 3.0. I'm going to zoom in on this. Hadn't moved hardly at all, right? It opened up here, came up here, and went right back to where it opened. And it was kind of hard to see with all this chart stuff in the way, but that's what we're seeing there. So I'm going to zoom back out. Now, let's take a look at the Treasury. Here's what's interesting. A lot of people like to go with the U.S. Treasury, and they like to look at the T-bills as not the U.S. Treasury, sorry, just market talk coming out of my face. They look at the 10-year as a way to say, hey, this is indicative of what rates are doing. The only reason they look at that because it's a long-term bond. That's why they look at it. Look at here. If we're looking at the 10-year, look at how vastly different it is. Look at where it opened, way down. As a result of that, it's crawling back just to where it was last week. So it's not even remotely close, right? So when you think about these things, understand that what's driving rates from what you're seeing out in the market, what people are talking about, what you're going to see the news talk about, those things are not going to potentially, they may not be specifically for the deal you're working on. I've seen many investors over the years call me up and say, hey, the news said the interest rates are going down. Well, I just showed you on the 3.0 how vastly different that is. right? Versus the 2.0 versus the 10-year. Many of your news stations are going to talk about the 10-year. They're not talking about mortgage-backed securities. They're going to say the 10-year is going down, or the 10-year is getting better, so therefore, interest rates are going down. They're going to start making these comments. Look at the huge dynamic there. So you can't really look at these guys of really understanding what they're going on. They don't do lending for their job, right? They just report information that's handed to them that they have on a card. So you got to get a good professional who understands these things, that looks at these things, what drives these things. I can't say that we can reasonably predict the way we used to, but I'm going to play along in the trend world right now. So right now, I'm going to ride the trend. I'm thinking, since we're on this trend right now, things getting better in the mortgage-backed securities, I'm going to play the trend. I'm going to say that things might get a little bit better coming forward. I can't say how much, but that was a massive jump. It also hit resistance. If you go back and look, if you saw, in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and share it. Might as well get back in there. When you're looking at, we're bouncing against some resistance here. Look, bounced off of right here, bounced off right here, bounced off right here. So we're at our peak, right? So I'm still going to float the trend because of where this was going. Look at all this fight, this upward channel that is being created. I'm just going to see how that goes. Plus, I don't do a lot of the owner-occupied stuff anyway, so it's easy for me to go along with what the trend's doing anyway, because I don't do a ton of it. The real estate investors, you're staying kind of flat. We showed you on the 3.0. The 4.0 and the 4.5 is showing something very similar. So I just say we keep riding the real estate investment stuff, lock when it makes sense, as far as when you've got a deal. Again, interest rate's not going to kill you. You got that inflation that's helping you. Inflation's something that's keeping you in a very, very well-positioned place when you got that 30-year fix regardless of the interest rate, especially at today's rates. So thanks, guys. We'll see you on Friday.